Welcome. I want to welcome you to Fiber Art Now magazine's interactive interviews with our contemporary, compelling fiber artists and authors. My name is Cami Smith. I can see all you coming into the chat room here. Minnesota and Alberta. Oh, I love seeing all these locations. Thank you for letting us know where you're signing in from. That's always fun. Again, my name is Cami Smith, and I'm part of the Fiber Art Now magazine team. You'll see us in the little boxes down below. Victoria's in the middle, and she's managing all our technology. Today, we want to especially thank Baldani Threads for being our sponsor. Our guest artist today, Carol Ann Waugh, uses their threads for her masterly, beautiful, amazing fiber works. And we very much appreciate their support for bringing her here today. And oh my goodness, what a great topic. Carol was on top of it. She said, why don't we talk about marketing? And we have had a tremendous, overwhelming response for this webinar, so I'm excited. Oh look, somebody's typing in from Denver, Colorado. This is your part of the world, Carol. Let's see, where am I? So, for our global community, the ones of you that are sleeping right now, and the ones of you are kind of awake, please share our link with your creative community, because all the archives are on the Fiber Art Now webpage. We have a lot of ground to cover, so I'm going to just start and get right to business. Welcome, Carol. Thank you very, very much for being here today. Oh, there's our sponsor. Thank you. I'm half reading and half typing here. Those of you who are new and are signing in live right now, feel free to type away your questions and comments on the sidebar. Our editor, Marcia, will be there as well, answering some questions, and I will try to grab the questions as they're relevant to the conversation. So let's get going. Good morning, Carol. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good, and I'm in sunny Florida right now. I know you're in Denver, and there's a tremendously wonderful fiber community in the state of Colorado. So, okay, so I'm going to click on. There you are. That's nice to see you. Okay, so let's start with how you got involved in fiber art.
Well, actually, it goes back quite a long time, because I wrote my first book on making a quilt in 1976, and I brought a copy that you could see. It's 35 years old.
I love it.
But after I wrote the book, I really never made a quilt. So I started about 9 years ago. I was a little bored with my life, and I decided I'd make some charity quilts as a hobby. And so that's what I started doing in 2005. And because Colorado has this wonderful group of contemporary art quilters, I joined that and started learning from my colleagues at that time, and really loved doing more creative things than just making the same patch 100 times and sewing them together. So.
And I think you talked about how you joined FRCQ.
That's the name of our quilting group, Front Range Contemporary Quilters.
I see. And you were taking workshops at that time and just learning contemporary techniques. I was just thinking that,
yeah. There's a lot to learn when you start, because there really art quilting today and fiber art today is more mixed media than it is anything else. So the world is pretty open.
Well, then how did you evolve and decide to go professional and earn a living as an artist and as a fiber artist? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's a big step, right? I mean, it's easy to just fool around and play around, but I had my own consulting business in marketing and educational publishing at that time, and my business was kind of going down, and I needed a new career. So I kind of looked around and I thought, well, what can I do now that I'm 60 to earn a living? And I didn't know anything about art, so I thought, perfect, that's what I'll do. I'll be an artist. And that's what I did.
Wow, you make it sound so easy and smooth, but you still had to invest in the gear, should we call it gear, and learn some of the I don't know, the techniques. I don't know, that's a lot to jump into as you get in the middle of everything. It's not so quick. So I'm going to get this, there we go, some of your pieces up here because they're just so beautiful.
You're right. It's not that easy, but in my past, my background is marketing, and that is a big help. It's what I did all my life, and so it didn't scare me to think about how to market my work and get it out there. Also, I started and sold 2 companies during my career in publishing, so to me, it wasn't risky to invest the time and effort that I knew it was going to take to start a career in a new area where I really didn't know much about it. So I think that helps.
Yeah, that I'm sure you brought a lot to the table. Just the whole publishing piece was critical, I think, because I know you've talked to me a little bit about the importance of publishing, and I guess being a business owner, making the numbers crunch. Because it is a business, I don't know, I just like to do my felting, and I don't want anybody to bother me. I don't care if I sell. By then, it would be nice to be a professional artist and do that. So I know we've got some pieces that we're posting right now. Are these at your gallery?
Actually, I have a show up right now, but it it only shows one of my series called Stupendous Stitching. I can see that you're posting some of my stitch and slash work, which is different, but when I do a show, I try not to mix different series within the same show.
So you're primarily known for 2 of your fiber art series, the Stupendous Stitching and Stitch and Slash. How did you develop those techniques?
Well, probably the most important thing I did in 2009 was move out of the house into an art studio building where I had my own studio, and I was hanging out with other artists. I was the only fiber artist in the building, but that's okay. I learned a lot from painters and sculptors and all kinds of mixed media. But when I decided to take on some overhead, and this is part of the investment that I made in myself, I kind of felt a little guilty, and I think that guilt made me work harder to find my artistic voice and to come up with something that was unique. And I think that's really important for an artist when you are building a career as an artist. You need to have something that's unique, that says this is a Ann Waugh piece as opposed to a Cami Smith piece. And so it took me a while. It took me about 9 months to fool around enough to come up with something called Stupendous Stitching, and then make enough pieces to make an exhibit that showed that work. So that was really the start.
And you were inspired. Your colors are so brilliant. You were inspired.
I like color.
Yeah, I love color too.
Yeah.
I think we all do. So I don't know. I think you were mentioning to me you were inspired by the molas.
Well, after I had done my Stupendous Stitching work and started teaching and online and in person and writing books about it, my students all wanted me to teach them something else, and I didn't know what else to teach them because I didn't have anything else. So I decided I needed to develop another series. And I've been a long-time collector of molas from Panama, but if you look at them, they're a lot of work. And I knew that I needed to make more than one piece a year. So I was, again, trying to figure out how to take some of that inspiration in terms of layering different fabrics and then cutting through to reveal a design. And so that's what happened when I developed Stitch and Slash.
Someone on the chat bar over here says, "Oh, I love how she thinks outside of the box. Her work is so amazing." I loved hearing that. It looks like you got some people from down under in the UK and yeah, Queensland. We got somebody who's awake down in Queensland, Australia. Thank you, Judy, for checking in here. That's exciting. So when did you sell your first work, and how does that happen?
Yeah. So I had a solo show at a co-op gallery in Denver called the Ice Cube Gallery, and part of that building has open studios on First Fridays. And I know a lot of cities around the world have First Fridays or Second Tuesdays or Third Wednesdays or whatever, where artists open up their studios and people can come in and talk to the artist and see their work. And so one day this woman shows up and she saw some of my stupendous stitching work in my studio, and she said, "Hi, I am the buyer for Kaiser Permanente, and I'd like to acquire some of your work for one of our new hospitals." And I was like, "What? Is that how it works?" People just come in and they just say, "Yeah, I'm, in charge of buying art and I'd like your work." And that happened, and that was the first time I started learning about how to sell art to people who we call art consultants, who are people who are hired by corporations and buildings that are being built to, quote, decorate, the hotel or the office or whatever. And I sell all of my work now, with a few exceptions, to art consultants who then resell it to corporations.
Oh, that's really, everybody I think gets excited when they have that opportunity to see their work in a professional environment and not, I don't know, that's just exciting.
Yes.
And I know we all do have those open studios. I'm trying to read questions over here. I know the people from Australia were asking, how do you market, how do you get those out there? Wait, I'm trying to read, Judy. Hold on, Judy. I'll be with you in a minute. Because I wanted to ask, when you are thinking of corporations and getting your pieces out there, what do you think are you making your art for the corporation, or do you think of what their mission is, and that if it's a hospital, or does that inspire what you're doing, or what do you have?
Not really, because I think, well, for me, I just make the art I want to make, and I am so happy that corporations love it, right. Especially hospitals. They are really into fiber, and so because they understand fiber better, I think, than corporations. I have to tell you, the first time I sold a piece, it went to a dental place, and I was so excited to have one of my works in this dental office, and the owner came in and said, "I hate that piece," and they returned it. And that was like, oh my God. Wow. This is horrible, right? But I knew it would be okay, because the art consultant who had to call me and return my piece knew that she owed me. And so they bought eventually 2 other pieces and placed them elsewhere. So there is a little bit of a risk because you have people who look at certain things and like art or don't. I mean, art is a very personal thing anyway, whether we're talking mixed media or, fiber. But so I think if you're going to go after the corporate market for placing your work, you need to think a little bit about the content. If it's figurative or controversial, chances are the corporation's not going to want to buy it. Right. So I recommend that you think more abstractly. And also, I know here in Colorado, anything with aspen trees, it sells. So depending on where you are, There might be images, like I've been in New York, anything with buildings would sell. I think art is a very local kind of thing, and if you can tap into what the local market wants, they will support you because they want to support local artists anyway.
Right. And okay, so now the questions are streaming in fast. So I knew this was going to happen. So how do you price your work? Coming up, I forgot.
That's a great question. That's the first question almost every artist has. And how do I price my work? When I started selling, I didn't care what they were willing to pay, right? Because I was so excited to sell a piece. I would just almost say, well, what do you want to pay? But now I don't do that. I have a big collector area now, and art consultants, when you work with them, they have what they think is reasonable in their mind, and if you can find out from them what they think is reasonable and price accordingly, you'll be fine. So I can just tell you my personal experience. I know in Denver, Colorado, where I live, that the average price that art consultants are working with is about $350 a square foot. And I price my work by the square inch because of its complexity. And so I price my work right now at $3 a square inch.
So someone wants to know, how do you network with the consultants? How do you get your work to a consultant?
Yeah, how do you do that? That's a really important thing. Well, first of all, if you Google art consultants in your city, you're going to come up with a whole list of people.
Awesome.
So the first thing is finding out who they are. The second thing is to make sure that you are sending them information about where to see your work. So that assumes that you are showing your work either in exhibits or at co-op galleries or whatever. So this whole marketing thing kind of works together. I'm here to tell you art consultants will not come to your house. They just won't. So if you are working out of your house and not showing your work, it's going to be a pretty high bar to get the notice of these art consultants.
So what other marketing tools do you have?
Because they want to...
Yeah. Did you hear me? I'm sorry,
I'm sorry, Ken, I lost.
Okay. We were wondering what marketing tools you have in place so that you're ready for when the consultants are looking.
Okay, so to me, absolutely important and necessary is a current website, because that's the first place people take a look to find you. And if you have an out-of-date, old, clunky, website that shows that you showed a work 10 years ago but hasn't been updated since, that's not a good thing for you. So I always recommend that you have a very current, up-to-date website that shows your current work. And that means that you have to be able to update it yourself, which is really, really important. And there's so many tools out there now that it makes it easy for you to update. Like I use WordPress for my one website, and then I have another website for my gallery, and that's on Squarespace. So I make sure I update my website every single month. That's essential. The other thing I think that's essential is to have postcards about your art and you, because I carry these postcards with me everywhere, so that whenever I meet somebody that knows somebody, I give them a postcard and says, this is what I do, and here's my website. And then, of course, business cards, which are the smaller versions, really, of a postcard. And they don't really show your work to your best advantage, but at least it gives you a name and a website and a phone number or contact information. So those, to me, are the most important. The second most important to me is a newsletter. A newsletter is the only way, really, that you can send information out to people without them having to come to you. And so I have a monthly newsletter that I send out every month to about 1,500 people, and they actually email me and say thank you for sending me information. So it's wonderful, and people can keep up with where I'm teaching and what I'm doing and when my shows are, and they open it, and it's a fabulous way to connect to your collectors and to, you know, people who you are networked with. And the other thing I wanted to show you is a portfolio, which I also think is really important. This is mine, and I do this every year.
Wait,
and
hold on. Hold on. I want to get that so we could see it. There we go. Good.
So inside, there are photos of my work, and in the back, there is kind of like my resume. And so I carry this with me all the time in my purse. As a matter of fact, I bought my purse so it would fit my portfolio. And when people ask me what do, I whip out my portfolio and they can see it right there. Some people are using their those little computer things, tablets.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I have one too, but I don't use that because it's too clunky and you have to boot it up and it takes time. And people really do respond to the printed book. I also send these out to all my art consultants every year too, and that reminds them I'm around, this is my work. You know, when you are proposing to buy artwork, oh yeah, don't forget Carol, you know. So I think that's also really important. And then if you have time, which most people don't, I would suggest you do blogs. I do a blog every week.
Is that different
really
than your newsletter? Is your blog
What?
Is your blog different than your newsletter?
Totally. In my blog, I only talk about art and fiber. And in my newsletter, I'm talking about my teaching schedule, you know, what I'm doing, my shows. It's more of a marketing tool. The blog is more of a personal thing. Like yesterday, I just posted an unfinished piece that I'm working on that's totally different than anything else I've ever done. And I'm a little scared about it. And I thought, well, I'll just kind of blog about it and see what people think. And it's been interesting to hear what people think about it. So, and I also want to talk a little bit about partnerships, which I also think is really important. You know, our industry is full of interesting businesses, and Valdani is a good example. One day, Dana, who's the president of Valdani, saw my work, and she sent me a whole box of wonderful thread from her company that I could start using, and I had never used hand-dyed cotton thread like that before, and I fell in love with it. And so I emailed her back, and I said, oh my gosh, I love this thread. Thank you so much for letting me try it. And she invited me to share her booth at Market. And so we've developed this really wonderful relationship. She's a very generous person, and I have found in my life that the more generous you are with other people, the more generous they are with you. And so Valdani was really one of my first partnerships. The second partnership I was able to create was Bernina. I'm a Bernina ambassador, and so I can connect with all of their ambassadors, and now I'm networking with all of the national teachers all over the country at their annual meeting. And so those are the kind of things that you really need to go after and try to work so that you can help a company and the company can help you back.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a wonderful partnership. I mean, it's a win-win for everybody, and it's very relevant, and I don't know, I just think that's really great that when you can build those partnerships. We do that all the time, and you are very generous. Just the fact that you're helping us today and giving all your tips. I want to make sure I keep up with the questions here. So do you want to talk a little bit more about social media? And then we'll go into the pie chart, because there's a lot of questions about things that would be relevant once they see your pie chart.
Okay, so now I'm going to make a confession. I don't like social media myself, so I hire somebody to be me online.
Oh, wow.
So
understandable, though.
I think it's important. What?
That means that way you probably have time to create and do your work.
Exactly. And so I have Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and what else would there be? There's one more. LinkedIn. So I hired somebody who's really an expert at this. She set up all of those 4 things for me. And, you know, once in a while I will post myself. It's not too hard to do that. But she really takes care of doing all of that work for me. And I think she's well worth her weight in gold. So if you can find somebody who can do it for you, I know there's so many people who don't want to do it, you know, but I can tell you it has reaped a lot of benefit for me. I get a lot of hits from Facebook to my website. Pinterest is a wonderful place where I post my students' artwork, and we get a lot of hits there. But, you know, it does take time to maintain all of that, as I'm sure you know, Cammie, because you're the head of social media, right?
Well,
yeah, so you know how much time it does take.
Well, so let's go to the pie chart, Victoria. You want to pull that pie chart up, because I think that kind of adds to the conversation here. Okay, Carol, take it away on this one.
Okay. Well, a lot of people want to know, how do you make a living from fiber art? So I just finished doing my taxes, and I thought, well, gee, I'll just kind of break out where my income came in for the year and share that with you. I know a lot of artists that not only work in fiber but work in every media, and I don't know any fiber artist that's alive that's making a living out of just selling art. So I think that's kind of a shock to most people, because I think a lot of artists think, oh yeah, I'll just make great work and then somebody will sell it for me and I can make a great living just by selling art. And I have found that that is really not true. And so I just took a look at how much of my revenue for the year came from selling art, and it was 17% of my total revenue. And so that I couldn't live on. So I took a look and I thought, well, if I'm going to be an artist, I think I'm going to have to be teaching and lecturing about my process. And if you are a fiber artist, the opportunity to do that is huge. Every single city has a guild, and they're always looking for people to come in and lecture and teach. And so once you get onto the national circuit, you could make a very good living just lecturing and teaching about quilt making or fiber art or any technique that you have developed. And so I made about 11% of my income last year teaching. But I can tell you that that is a little low for this year, because I didn't teach as much as I usually do. And everything is kind of tempered by the time it happens in. So last year I only taught for 6 months instead of the usual 12 months that I usually teach. And so then if you look at my book, which is Stupendous Stitching, and this is my book. I wrote the book and published it a couple years ago, and this year I had, see what it was, 17% of my income came just from selling my book. And I have to tell you, I self-published my book as opposed to having a
Uh-oh. Yikes. Hold on. Shoot.
Hello?
Yep, there you are. We lost.
All right. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Oh, I love this technology.
You're doing great. No, we're okay. We're back. We'll go back to the pie chart, and everybody's asking a lot of questions about the pie chart. So.
Okay, then I'll quickly just go through here and just say that besides teaching in person, I teach online, and I teach online through Craftsy. And so I get royalties from there, And so that's a major portion of the income that I earn. And so it's a combination of all of those different revenue streams that really make me have enough money to be able to have a gallery and pay the rent on my studio and pay for my supplies, which is substantial. But don't tell my husband, no.
So do you want to talk a little bit I mean, you're on a variety of television shows, Quilter's Newsletter TV, Quilting Arts. How does someone go about getting on to those shows?
Well, you know, everything builds on everything else. So when I started developing the stupendous stitching technique, and I had a show, somebody visited my show who happened to work for the quilt show. You know, you never know who's going to walk in that door. And so she fell in love with it. And she took it to Ricky Timms and Alex Anderson and said, oh my gosh, look at this fabulous, you know, work. We need to get this person on the show. That's how it happened. It's really all about getting your work out there and following up on the opportunities that come your way. Once that happens, you know, there are people that are looking at all of the people on the quilt show to see, well, whether they could write a book, whether they should invite them on their show. You know, that's how the network works. So just getting that first one helps you get everything else. So
how much time do you devote each week to all these marketing efforts?
A lot. I get up every morning and I work for at least an hour, just checking my email, making sure everything is answered. If any inquiries come in about can you teach at this guild or not, I make sure I answer them right away. And then I go to my studio, and I don't have a computer at my studio because it's just too distracting. So I just say to myself from 10 to 3, I'm just incommunicado, and then I can get back home at 3 and then do it again for another hour. I have to also say that the weekends I spend a lot of time updating my website, writing my newsletter, you know, doing some of the bigger tasks that I do every month. And so I would say between 10 and 15 hours a week I spend on marketing.
Someone is asking some questions about the self-publishing component. I don't know. Oh, there's your wonderful book. Can you talk a little bit about self-publishing?
Yes. Today, you can self-publish a book very, very easily without a lot of money and without a lot of risk. If you publish with a publisher, you'll get a small royalty. So if you publish yourself, you're getting 100% of the revenue. So that's the difference, you know, a small royalty versus 100% versus how much you have to put in to get the book published. So what I did was I hired a managing editor. Janice Brewster is her name. I wrote the manuscript. I sent it to her. She edited the whole thing and sent it to a graphic designer who designed the book. And 2 months later, I get the PDF of the book. So it didn't really take me a lot of time or effort to get the book together. And then once you have a PDF of your book, you have several options to print it. And today, you can digitally print 200 copies for under, you know, $1,000. And so you can break even very, very quickly, especially if you're teaching, and you can sell the book directly to your students. So it's pretty risk-free, and if your book happens to take off because you write a magazine article or you get on the quilt show or, you know, Craftsy taps you on the shoulder and you start teaching online, you know, you can make a lot of money self-publishing. I mean, I can tell you for my book, I printed 10,000 copies. I have 2,000 copies left, and I've made over $100,000 just from my book. Are you there? Hello?
Hello, there we go again. We're back, I think.
What did you hear or not?
I don't think I heard anything, but I'm not sure because.
I heard everything.
Oh, good. Okay, good. So then it was recording away. It was just me missing out on all that. Thanks, Victoria. So that's probably a good sign there that we don't want to go on too long. But let's see. Scheduling. I'm making sure I have all the questions. We talked about pricing. Oh, mounting your work. Do you have any tips on how you mount your work?
I do. I am a really big believer that if you're going to sell your work to corporations, you have to present it as fine art. So the way I've experimented a little bit with how to mount it, and I've come up with a way that I do all of my work now because I think it's the best way to do it. So I buy wooden panels from a company called Dick Blick. They're online and they're inexpensive, and I paint those panels with black house paint, and then I cut my piece to fit the frame and mount it with gel medium, and that's an archival glue, and that's how I do my work.
Yeah, I think they're really beautiful. Look at that piece there, just those colors. So I'm hoping that all of you go to Carol's website where you can see things more closely. Let's see, I'm going to make sure we get the last question. So developing your timelines to set goals. My connection slowed down there. Did you talk about that? Investing your time and your money?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess what I wanted to leave you with, all of you fiber artists out there, is I would like you to think, if you're going to go the route that I went, that you need to invest some money and some time into building your new career. And so you shouldn't feel guilty about it. You should just set aside some money and say, you know what, I'm going to be a professional, and it takes my time and money and effort to do that, and give yourself a couple years to get to the point where you have enough work that shows what you can do in a consistent way. And I think the way to do that is to sit down and think about the next 3 years and put down a timeline. So, you know, by the end of 12 months, I'm going to have 12 pieces of work. I am going to join a co-op. I'm going to, you know, get a one-woman show at this particular place. I mean, I think the more you just write down your goals, the more you're going to make those goals happen, because you're going to be looking at that saying, oh, I guess I have to get on the quilt show, and I haven't done anything about that. I wonder, you know, maybe I need to contact them and start thinking about how do I get on that show, because that's one of the first things that I can do as an artist to start building my reputation. And I also think the more you network, the better, because the more artists you know, the more fiber artists you know. We're very generous people, and you know, I've had times when I've met an artist and they said, you know, why don't the two of us do this together? You know, and that really makes a difference. And so I really recommend that you join all these groups, that you network like crazy, and you're going to find out that it happens. It just happens. And I think that's the best part of being a fiber artist today.
Those are good words. No matter, you know, I work at a university in my day job, and those words are what we share with our students as they graduate, because it's the relationships that you build that help you in the future. I know artists like to just focus on their process, and but you still have to come out and network. So those are good words of wisdom. Let's see. Wait, someone had one question here about entering national shows as much as possible. Does that help?
You know, it does and it doesn't. It's pretty expensive to do national shows, and when I started out, I did at least 10 a year. So it was a big part of my expense, you know, shipping and making the work and having it gone for 6 months and tracking it. It's a big deal. The reason I think it does work for you in the beginning, I don't do that now, but in the beginning it works for you because all of the editors of the magazines go to these shows and they look for new people and they look for new work. And so if your work is outstanding or you won an award or whatever because you entered it in a show, they might just call you up and say, wow, we'd like to put an image of your work in our magazine. You know, so that's another way you can start building these relationships with these editors, which is really important to do to get on their radar. And, you know, again, I'm very lucky we live in Colorado because, you know, we have Interweave here, we have Quilter's Newsletter, we have McCall's Magazine. I mean, you know, so we can even just show our work at the local Mancuso show and still get all of that exposure that, you know, you would need to do if you went to Houston or, you know, some of the AQS shows or whatever.
That's true. That's true. You are in a nice location. Yeah. Well, if anybody does get to Colorado, Carol has a show that's up and through March 21st at ABA's Gallery. I think we've hit on all the points. I know we could probably talk forever. If anybody has any further questions, if you email me at cammysmith@fiberartnow.net, I will be able to be happy to pass that on to Carol. You're welcome to go on the Fiber Art Now Facebook page and comment. We always try to respond to all the comments that we get there, so that's a great place. Carol, we want to thank you. All the comments about the pie chart and setting your schedule and the self-publishing, you know, everybody's really excited about some of those things that you've shared. And I'm sorry, my page here, all we can get here is your wonderful website. But anyway, I just want to thank you for the time you've taken to work with us here today.
No, you're very welcome. I'm really happy to share.
And thank you to Baldani Threads. Just looking at that website just is exciting. All those colors and threads. So thank you, everybody, for joining from near and far. This is by far the most lively group we've had. And we hope we have a bunch of other great artists coming down the pike. So stay tuned, and we'll see all of you on the social media platforms that we hang out on. Thank you again, Carol.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.